Welcome to Linguistics You Can Use. It is March 4th, 2022. I'm Sonatina, and today we're talking about inclusion. What a word, right? It's been in the news a lot recently. I think you might have heard it once or twice. And so today we're going to discuss why this word is become such the word for now, right? So let us start our journey. Okay, yeah, sorry. I was like, if you're familiar, if you're here for the first time, welcome. I'm Sonatina. Crafting Sound Meaning is the name of this channel. And I have already said this is Linguistics You Can Use, our weekly live stream about language. If you have been watching for a while, welcome back. Thanks for continuing this language journey with me. Yes, so today we're chatting about inclusion. What does it mean to include? To be inclusive. To feel like you have inclusion in a group, right? So let's 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 go on a little journey and discuss a little bit of history before we get into language today. And again, if you've been with us before, you understand these history that thing that you do when you're not doing the thing um are very common on this channel. I'll get that word. I will. Um, Not a segue. That's when you go from one thing to another. It's not a diatribe. I mean, it can be considered one, maybe, by some people, but no, it's a diversion, but not. That's why anyway, my brain is trying to go through all of its vocabulary right now to figure out the word I'm trying to say. But we are on the path of inclusion, and we're going to take a little off road adventure into history and go on a little exercise of what it means to be a person. Whoa. Whoa. Okay. We got heavy there real quick. So, I am a big fan of edutainment. This show, this little language show very well could be considered edutainment to some people. And in my viewing habits, I watch a lot about deep history and what when we became, right, the human species, the evolution of humanity and of the world and all of that. It's fascinating to me. And so I watch a lot of it. And one of the things that I've seen more in the last year, and it's been building, but especially in the last year, it just feels like all over we see the not the knowledge, the understanding that we as humans, our species of Homo sapien sapien, pretty sure that's the current name for our particular group, is just the lucky one that made it out of all of the human species there could have been, right? We have Homo neanderthal, Homo floresiensis, like there's a bunch of Homo species, and Homo meaning, right, self. So the implication of that name is we and they are one. We are one species. We're just, kind of distant cousins, much like a tiger and a lion are distant cousins of the feline species. And they can breed. They can interbreed. There is there are issues with, sometimes they don't have fertile offspring most of the time, but much like, horses and what is it? Not is it donkey? Well, because like I think donkey and horse make a mule, which is sterile, right? So anyway, what I'm saying is we as Homo sapien are just one in the history of our species. And we had cousins that died out before we understood all of these things. And yet they didn't, because they are still a part of us. We know that the old Homo human species were able to interbreed because we know that people who have taken genealogical, like DNA tests and all that, are part Neanderthal or Floriensis, right? We can see how different species of ancient human made it into our particular makeup, which, you know, means maybe they're not gone. We just kind of became one. And due to the nature of our species, I guess, we are environment builders, right? We are pretty much like the ultimate environment changer, right? So there are some species that are known for changing their environment so that they can live. Beavers, for example, right, are just disgusted with the sound of rushing water. So they are they're like primed to build dams, to change their environment so that they can stop that sound. And then they have a nice little, cozy home that they can hang out in. So we as well are a species that it seems to be primed to make adjustments to our environment in order to feel comfortable being in it. We live in every biome on the planet. So, we're pretty successful. And that brings us to the word of the day. Okay, so we went on this whole big journey through history into the present, talking about what it means to be a human. Where does this come into inclusion? Well, if you haven't already, right, like kind of speculated already to that point, it involves how we envision us versus them, right? So I'm gonna grab my handy dictionary and let's chat about inclusion. So inclusion in this dictionary, and if you are again new here, welcome. This particular dictionary I have had since I was in elementary school. Fabulous gift for Christmas that I asked for and love to this day. So it's not necessarily up to date, but I use this because it's good to see how our concept of words changes over time. And the dictionary is a great way to analyze how we used to think about a word versus how we currently do. So, in this particular dictionary, inclusion is defined as an including or being included. Now, it's also a geological term, so just, for all you science people out there who are like, is she going to include this definition? I will. A gaseous, liquid, or solid foreign body enclosed by a mineral. And I actually really love that one too. And it it is, there's a reason that's called an inclusion, right? Surrounded. It is included. One piece of a, of a mineral is surrounded by another. So geologists call that inclusion. It seems logical to me in that way. But let's go back to the social one, the noun, right? What is inclusion? Well, it's an including or being included. So, dictionary writers are very specific in the words they use to define other words. And so the fact that this is being defined as an action, right? And including, being included, it means that there is some action happening external to whoever is being included, whatever is being included, by those out of it. So, what is include? What does this one say about include? To contain as part of a whole. Included. Comprised or contained. Botany. You science people, always grabbing those fun words. Not protruding beyond the corolla, not exerted. That's of stamens and pistils, so like flower stuff. That's something I didn't know. That's interesting. You know, now I know. So include, to contain, as part of a whole. And inclusion is an including, or being included. So when we talk about inclusion, right, again, we are already starting to see how we define groups, how we define ourselves versus others, how we define our, us, versus their, them, right? And these are choices that we make. It doesn't often feel like choices because we are products of our environment. We live in a certain area and we have certain preferences, and it seems just natural, automatic, something that just everybody could agree with or understand in how we consider us, what we consider to be good, to be right, you know. And it just stems from comfort. It stems from what we're used to for the most part, right? As I speak, the world is currently facing a particular dangerous war. And it is because we are fighting over what it means to be a part of something. To take it, very simply, the, Putin and the Russian government and all that want to include Ukraine in their sphere, in their economic and political sphere and military sphere, and all of those. They want to be inclusive of this country. And the people of Ukraine are saying, well, no, thank you. We do not want to be included in the way you want to include us. This is not a good way to include people. This is not good inclusion, right? So this is why I study words. This is why I feel that language is just so essential to study and to analyze and to really consider. Because when we don't do this on a regular basis in our youth, when we are forming our understanding of the world, we can often end up almost unable to expand our idea of us to others that we weren't trained to consider us, or we weren't, or in a way that they feel they should be able to be included. right? There's an old saying that I just absolutely want to makes my skin crawl thinking about it, right? From my childhood. Love the sinner, hate the sin. And it was always just so interesting to me how people thought that that was good. To me, I was like, there's no difference between me and this ideal person you think. Like, I am not this person you think I could be. I am me. So the idea of you saying hate the sin, you mean hate my life. Don't hate. I don't understand how you can separate the two. That's what I'm trying to express, right? And so it feels challenging to understand that as inclusive behavior or an inclusive attitude. I'm just like, that doesn't feel inclusive to me. I don't appreciate my relationships being called a sin, and you saying that you hate them because they go against what you feel called to do in your life. And so yeah, I reject that inclusion. And that's also confusing to some people because like, well, I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to include you in my world and you are being very ungrateful. Like, well, because maybe you should want to be included in my world. And for some people that is a like yeah, that clicks. Some people say no. They're like, well, no, obviously not, because my world is better. I am right. That's that's the crux, right? There is a sense of you have either the way to live or well anyway is good to live, right? I am more on the anyway is good to live. And the restriction I give in terms of, living is if I do not harm somebody else, then there is no reason for another to get involved in my life, right? So, and that's one of those things as a society, as a community, what do we choose to include in our rules about how to live, how to act? Where do they stem from, right? These are the kinds of questions that I'm always asking and that I feel are important, that I feel that aren't often asked by the people who are making the decisions, creating the rules that we all live by. To me, it's very important to ask, why do you feel that this will solve the problem? And what do you base that on, right? The feelings of somebody about how they might, think a problem could be solved is great but it doesn't mean it's right. We all do have different perspectives and the different perspectives can lead us to a greater truth. It does not mean each individual in a group is right. And these are the nuances that we always have to grapple with when we are discussing these terms. Today I focused on inclusion, right, as one of the buzzwords that comes from the diversity, equity, and inclusion uh, world we're living in, right? There's this effort to recognize that we do live in an unequal society, that the cards are stacked against certain people because of historical reasons, and it's important for our society to deal with this. And the way we are choosing to deal with this is by engaging in a diversity, equity, and inclusion project. But those are very nebulous words, right? As I just demonstrated by analyzing inclusion for about 20 minutes. So I like to caution you and myself. This is one of the ways that I engage with media is I'm always asking, right? What is the purpose that I feel that this author, this speaker, what is their message to me? What are they trying to get me to feel? Not even just think, right? Because when our emotions can be activated, it sort of bypasses a lot of our more um, contemplative structures, right? We feel pain, we feel scared, we feel our body reacts to things, our body is reacting, and we go to our experiences, our training, our education on how we are supposed to deal with this experience. Right now in our society, most of the people who are in charge have been trained to deal with that experience by lashing out at others. And it's something that has just become a part of the culture without it really being analyzed for a long time. So now the current generation is deciding that they are breaking down that past. They are looking at where our culture comes from and asking, is this the culture that I want to keep going? I want to maintain, right? What is it about this culture that I want to continue? And that's another thing about a lot of this stuff, right? Inclusion, it sounds kind of zero sum in a way that I explained it, in that, like, right, we have one group and we have another group, and like, but that's not really how it is, right? We belong to many different groups. I've mentioned on this show a few times, right, that I have both Mexican and Welsh heritage. And so I understand the battles between trying to identify your culture, like, where do I belong? And so my conclusion, what I decided in order to, you know, deal with this thought in my youth was, well, I will include the world in my family. If I am so, if I have such diverse parts of me just spread out all over, then how can I not just feel that I have cousins everywhere? And so it doesn't make sense to me to think of the world, of other humans, as anything but distant cousins. And that inclusion, that radical inclusion, some would say, has made it possible for me to have these thoughts, these opinions, and speak up when I feel that people are being more limiting than they should be. So, we are going to wrap it up today, right there. Yeah, it was a bit of a, shorter one for us today, but I think that this is one of those words that, I wanted to like get deep into focus on and have it as, succinct as I could, right? I can talk. We all know I can talk. But let's hear from you, right? Let me know what you feel, right, about being inclusive in your life. How does it feel? Like, do you understand or have you analyzed what it feels when you actually, are included versus when people say you're included, but you actually don't feel it, right? Do you have these experiences, and what do you feel it says about you and the world and all of that, right? I do believe we all have people out there that we can click with. It takes some effort to find those people. And some people have an easier time getting along with more people than others. At the same time, I think it's important that we really value the people that we choose to include in our lives, right? And the way that I do that is by trying to think about how they would want to be treated so that they feel included in my life. And I'm lucky that I have some people that treat me in a similar way. So I wish you the same uh, fortune, in your life, that in maybe analyzing this idea of inclusion and what it means to be included and to be including, that you're able to find your people and maybe appreciate your people a little bit more deeply, right? So, thank you once again for joining me. Uh, I invite you to ask questions in the comments below. You can also tweet it to me at Sound Meaning on Twitter. And oh, looks like my thing went out real quick. And yeah, send me an email. Description. All of those things are in the description box. Feel free to check them out. And yes, I would love to know if there is an area of language that you want me to talk about for 30 to 40 minutes or so, right? We can break it up. We can do multiple ones even in a day. So that's all the linguistics you can use this week. I hope this discussion on inclusion helps you get out there and have fun crafting sound meaning. Bye.